Gael Garcia Bernal. You play Rodrigo de Souza in Mozart in the Jungle, which finished its third season a few months ago. I want to go straight to this because this is the one thing that I am really excited about for the third season. It was obviously the first half in Venice. We open with you on this weird kind of catamaran thing cycling down the canal in Venice, and I want you to take us back to that particular scene and working in Venice generally.
Yeah, well, when I heard about this bicycles, I mean, this was one of the things that came up as soon as people from the show went and did the tech scout in Venice, and they said that it would be really cool if he opens up, if we see Rodrigo on this bicycle that's adapted to float on water, and fantastic thing. And I had never seen these things, and I think nobody had, because I asked, is this common in Venice? Is this kind of, and they were like, well, they say that there are a few of them and everything, but no, actually I heard that, I mean, I only saw it for the show, and I think they only made it, I don't know if they exist a lot or they used a lot anyway, so it's very apt for Rodrigo to have one. We wanted to play a little bit more with that and have Rodrigo go all the way into, all around Venice in the canals with the bicycle, but the problem is that you move like, I don't know, one knot, or I don't know what the speed of it is, but it's really, really slow. So, so no, it was not possible. But amidst all this kind of things that Rodrigo can come up with, we have the backdrop of Venice, which is one of the most incredible places on earth. It's beyond description. It's incredible to stay there for a month and a little bit more than a month that we stay there. And the whole crew was there. We would have time to wander, to get to know the place. We would shoot in amazing places as well. We shot in La Fenice, in that opera house, which is historical, of course. We also shot in La Scuola Grande di San Rocco, which is this incredible building that has beautiful, beautiful paintings and I mean, just the murals, and I mean, it's impressive. And I mean, in many places, in the Conservatory of Music in Venice. So with this show, we get the chance of experiencing something sublime of mankind. We get to see these places all over the world. We get to experience, the abstract of music. Yet at the same time, it is. Some people would argue it is the language of nature. It is the language of mathematics. It is the language of God in many ways. I mean, so it is an incredible thing to do. I mean, I'm so happy to be doing Mozart in the Jungle. Really, it's beyond anything I would have expected.
Yeah, that's amazing. What this show does really beautifully, for anyone who hasn't seen it yet, it immerses us as audiences in various settings that we're not quite familiar with. So the pit of an orchestra, in season 2 in Mexico City, some of those scenes were unbelievable. And then in Venice, a lot of the time, I think the crew and the directors were lingering on certain parts of one of the most beautiful cities on earth, as you say. What are your thoughts on the way the show is different? It's not your regular, show. It really does pay tribute to certain things like music, as you say, and like the orchestra, and now like this wonderful location. What are your thoughts on the way the show does that?
Yeah, well, I think it's also been a very natural process as well of understanding the group of people we are, and how do we put our feet into these waters, because I mean, none of us, or maybe, I mean, a few of us are very, experimented in music, but at the same time, none of us are like real musicians or have that type of training. And that's something that is like, we have to come to it with a lot of humility, and humbleness, because we're approaching something that people train years and years in their life to do. And it is something quite complex, complicated, yet at the same time, once it's being done, it just flows. It is part of an understanding that we have as cognitive beings, and And so the way that we've sort of developed this has been quite, step by step. We've sort of felt who the characters were to begin with. How do we started to give them some life? How do we started to appropriate as well with the characters? Because there is a lot of us in the characters. Rodrigo, it is an extension of my most extrovert and most sometimes perverse kind of imagination that I have. Like it is something that I would be if I wouldn't have a social kind of filter or something. I would be like Rodrigo, I think, or I would like to be like Rodrigo, or even more. I mean, so this little step by step kind of evolution has led us to now be able to do an episode, for example, like the one we shot in Rikers Island, where it is mainly about a piece of music like Messiaen's Turangalila, or Messiaen's works, and the way that the characters approach it is an experiment that we are able to do now, because we know who the characters are, we know what they would react to, and we can dedicate an episode to one single piece of music, one single work of a composer, and we can fly with that. And that's something that has evolved. If we would have thought of doing this on the first season, or from the beginning in the pitch aspect, it would be a difficult angle, because we don't know what's going on, what's happening. So in a way, that's really also optimistic, because there can be a very long life for these characters. There can be a very long life for this type of experiments. And I mean, this last year we were in Venice. The year before we were in Mexico. This year, I know where we might go, but I don't want to say. Yeah,
you're not allowed to say. I don't want to push you on that one, but God only knows where you're headed next time, because I don't know how you're going to top Venice, to be honest. It was so wonderful. And I think you're 100% right that the characters are so much more settled now. Like, we feel we know them, and we don't need to go through so much introduction anymore. We can just kind of be with them. And I think what that has done is it's made the show really much funnier. It was so funny this season. Do you think so?
Yeah. It's in the way we dare. Maybe coming on what I had. I mean, on the last question. I mean, now we dare to do things that don't necessarily tie into the, let's say, the dramatic sort of line. Now we can jazz it up, and we can sometimes go into this or that direction, and so that leads us to an endless opportunities of comedy and humor. I mean, it is we would laugh so much. I mean, like going into La Fiamma's house was played by Monica Bellucci, and me being a fan of, I mean, Rodrigo being a fan of La Fiamma, and La Fiamma being this, this diva of opera, and me being this kind of, this conductor that everybody talks about in the world, and we would play that, but at the same time, I was naturally responding to also the fascination I have of Monica Bellucci, and all of this. So it was, I don't know, like some things would come out, and I was actually meaning them,
Yeah. Before this season started, I'd read nothing and just watched it cold. And when Monica Bellucci turned up, I was like, wow, how on earth did you guys get Monica Bellucci? She's amazing. How was it like working with her?
Yeah, she's incredible. She's a totemic remnant of I don't know, of an idealized version of film. She's very good actress. She plays along really well. I mean, she jumps into whatever is being brought onto her. She's really good at doing that. Very easy to work with her. Very funny as well. And I don't know. I was very surprised when they came up and when we mentioned her name briefly, and and they looked for her, and she responded immediately, and we were all like, okay, great, okay, this is incredible. And I think, I mean, it's been very, very also very gratifying to hear a lot of people responding to the show from very unexpected places. I've got friends that, for example, come from or only like films that are directed by dead directors. Like or they're very precise in what they like, and very critical about everything and everything, and watch these long 5-hour films and whatever. But and some of them surprisingly were very keen on the show from the first season, mainly because of music.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that I don't know if we have to put out some conclusions on why also this show is very special, is because it deals with a very universal theme. I mean, it deals with something quite I don't know, where there cannot be any prejudices with music, in a sense. I mean, you can obviously go and talk about taste and and whatever your line of expression or whatever you like most, or whatever, things like that. But at the end of the day, you can't deny the power of how of what music makes us feel, and how we all have a very singular interpretation on the same song, or even if it's a three chord song, like, I don't know, like a rock song, or even, I mean, everybody has gotten a very singular interpretation of what I Can Get No Satisfaction is, So it is really beautiful that we're leading with poetry, with something that it would be horrible if somebody argues against someone else's point of view, because in a way all points of view are welcome in this discussion. I mean, it is very, very very amable. I don't know how to say, amicable.
Yeah. And the show then turned that on its head, because you're dealing with opera in season 3, especially the first half of it, with Monica Bellucci, who plays La Fiamma, as you say, a diva. And we have scenes like the maestro and La Fiamma, rehearsing, where she's belting out, fuck, 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 in the most beautiful, voice. And then we have, the staging of this ridiculous musical about Amy Fisher and Joey Buttafuoco. It's brilliant. What were your thoughts when you read the scripts and thought, are we really doing this?
That's funny, because me and Monica were the only ones that had no idea about what Amy Fisher or anything of that was. So in a way it was nice, because it naturally, Rodrigo and La Fiamma wouldn't have no idea as well of who Amy Fisher is, or so there's a lot of things that we definitely react naturally to. And also, like, we react on our fascination as well, of how we start to understand certain pieces and how we start to play with them, and how we dare do them as well, because we there's that good side of innocence, in a sense, that this is a piece of music. Okay, whatever we can put out there, we just dare and do it, because we have no time to train for 5 years a musical instrument and then play around with it. So I don't know if I make myself, I mean, if I make myself understood, but it's this thing of every time we receive a piece, a script, we see what are the pieces of music that we're going to play with. I go and I look at in YouTube. There's a lot of interesting, I mean, a huge library of videos and music of that interpret this piece of music, or the one that we're going to portray, or something like that. And from there is where I get a kind of like, okay, I start to develop my own Nescafe hypothesis.
So the other major part, because we could talk about the Venice episodes for hours, but I won't do that to you. The other major part of the season was Rodrigo, the maestro's relationship with Haley, played by Lola Kirk, and you know, it's really difficult to encapsulate what that relationship is. So I'm just going to put it to you and talk us through what you think that bond is between those two characters.
Well, it's, I mean, like, you know, it is very much like real life, because we've been seeing them for a long time, and you know, if it was a film, a 2-hour film or something, then it would be much more easier to kind of, you know, put the, you know, kind of connect the archetypes and establish them. But in this case, wow, it's so difficult to settle on an explanation on what's going on with the relationship. Like in real life, only they know, you know, like we can only have opinions and points of view and everything, but only they know what their story is. But in a way, I like a lot the fact that it is a love relationship that could have easily incorporated all the established notions of a couple's relationship. You know, sexual, spiritual, emotional, you know, from the day to day and living in the same house, or, you know, the stuff like that. But it hasn't been like that. But there's been true love from the beginning, I think. So I like that, you know, because it challenges the established archetype of what a couple's relationship should be. It goes, I mean, I'm not saying it is wonderful all the time. Obviously, it has its up and downs, but even established relationships have their up and downs. So it is not they are doing something very modern, I think, and very pure in a way. So I like the relationship, and I mean, well, I mean, maybe a few people saw what happened in the end of the 3rd season. Some people might have not seen. I don't want to spoil it for the ones that haven't seen it, but you know, it gets a little bit more complicated.
Yeah, yet again, more complicated. Going back to your early days, sorry, I'm just hearing an echo. I'll just see if I can turn myself down. If you can maybe turn down your volume, if you can, on your computer, that would help. Oh, it's gone now.
Okay, but I've got okay.
Yeah, it's all good. Sorry about that.
No problem.
So going back to your early days, you know, many of us know you from, you know, your breakthrough roles in Tu Mamá También and the Crimen del Padre Amaro, and really amazing films like that, Amores Perros. And then you started branching out into American cinema, and now you're even doing television. Can you explain to me the differences in working on TV and working in films like you used to do and what you're still doing? Like, what are the differences, do you think?
Yes, there are a lot of differences that have to do a lot with the, let's say, the color or the you know, now that we're in musical terms, I mean, like with the key, you know.
Yeah,
there is a difference in that and the tempo in a way. It has its everything has its advantages and disadvantages, but I've got this kind of, you know, like failing situation where I'm very optimistic. So in a way it is I always see the advantages of what we're doing and everything. So I was really surprised when I was called to invited to be part of the show, and this was only 5 years ago or something, and at that point the streaming service wasn't, you know, like it wasn't as established as it is now. I mean, surprisingly, it's only 5 years ago, but you know, there wasn't that connection immediately. And I heard what the story was about. I read the script. I saw the people that were involved. It was about music. It was not long, you know, periods of work as well, which is wonderful as well, because you can get, you know, tired of perhaps, I don't know, 8 months, or you cannot do anything else and stuff. So it has been a perfect combination, you know, to be able to work 3 months on this show, with this group of people, about music, learning a lot, shooting in New York, Venice, like we said, you know, Mexico, and many different places, with very great actors, you know, with the show's been getting a great response all over the world, and to do that, it is like my dessert of the year, or even my scholarship, my grant to establish myself and do other projects, and it allows me to be able to do other films in here in Mexico or in other parts of Latin America, which is where I like. I mean, there is very interesting things going on in terms of films, and so this is. I mean, it's been a wonderful combination. They combine very, very nicely, and of course, it is different to work at home. I mean, I work here in Mexico, and I'm shooting my plays with my. I don't know. When I go to New York, I go and I do Mozart. So I dedicate myself to classical music for 3 months, and it is wonderful to do that. It's been a really nice combination. I'm very, very happy that it's working out, and very happy as well how Amazon lets us do whatever we want. We feel absolute, complete creative freedom to play around with these characters, and maybe that's something that is not necessarily given with other channels or with other places where you can where TV is produced.
Yeah, absolutely. The show really was put on the map, especially when the Hollywood Foreign Press, the Golden Globes, gave you and the show an award a couple of years ago. We've talked about this with you before, and I'm sure you've talked about it on many occasions. But what I would like to know, because I know how thrilled and happy and shocked you were, and many of us we felt so vindicated that the show was given this recognition, because we've been talking about it for a long time, how wonderful it is. What do you think awards do for shows and for actors and performers and crew? Do you think they're worthwhile, apart from recognizing your achievement or your performance? Do you think they help get the show out there?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it is, and I would say that the relevance is even more, let's say, more angular than it is with films in terms of awards, because it really, there is such a big offer of TV now, or whatever. I mean, still called TV, but whatever
it's called.
Exactly. There is such a big offer. I mean, there's series being done in so many different parts of the world. I mean, there's so much things to watch, and there's not enough time. I'm sure you guys also, like, there's half of what's being done that you don't watch. You don't have time to watch. No. So it is wonderful when the show gets highlighted by an award, and it definitely opens up new audiences. It definitely opens up attention. People that were like, oh yes, I have to make time to watch that, or yes, I have to push the button, to see that. I have to do it. I have to do it. Finally, when the show gets an award, well, they go like, okay, now I have to do it, because if not, I'm gonna be out of. I don't know. Like, it gives that little push, and with that, there is something even more transcendental, I think, which is the fact that it gives the characters more life. And that's something that, I don't know, it is, I felt grateful not only for the awards and the joy of sharing it with all the people that do the show and that work in it, and happy and proud for everybody, but at the same time, very proud for the characters, because they're going to have a life, another life, and it is wonderful to see them, I don't know, becoming more real, becoming more accepted as well into, and I like their point of view, so I'm glad that their point of view is being accepted,
Yeah, absolutely.
So it is. I see it like an audience in a sense, as well. Like, I see it. I'm glad that Rodrigo gets more life, and I'm sure Rodrigo's grandchildren will be very happy that one day they gave Rodrigo a recognition like that.
Absolutely. At this year's Oscars, it was so wonderful to see you speak your heart on stage and say what you did. What was the reaction that you received from that, and did you get the outcome that you wanted from what you were trying to achieve?
Well, it is definitely. I definitely had to say something, because because I think we live in this time where we have to be very, very clear on drawing certain lines as well, and putting it out there, because if not, then we will get lost in a not on a moral pathway, or let's say an ethical pathway, but we will be just lost in what's let's say what's legal or illegal. And there's many things that can be perfected about what's legal and what's illegal. Everything is meant to be perfected in that sense. And I had to speak for me and for the millions of people that all over the world feel feel threatened with the millions and millions, and the vast majority of the world actually that feel threatened throughout by this notion that migration is something that is completely illegal. We have to establish a way that to understand the natural process of migration. We have to find ways of incorporating a very an accepting notion of what migration is, of why it's occurring, why on different places it's occurring as well, because it is not the same in different places. Sometimes it's economical, sometimes it's political, sometimes it has to do with war or with refugees all over the world, and sometimes, which is quite something to highlight and point out, it's because of climate change. And this is just growing and growing even more. So I had to say something about it to stop this hateful speech that establishes that a solution to incorporate or to deal with migration in its let's say non-documented way is to build walls. I think that is not the way to do it, and I'm convinced about it. Like, it is not the way to do it. It has to be much more comprehensive, because we live in a world now where we definitely depend on each other more than ever, and we have to care for the other. We have to incorporate the other, and I see myself as a migrant person. I live in Mexico, but I don't. I feel I'm a migrant in the sense that I've lived in many different places, and that I will, if I ever want to, I can live in other places. I can experience other places. My kids are migrant. The mother of my kids is from another country as well. My parents come from different countries. My children will be mine. So in a way, it is something that we cannot. I feel we have to stop criminalizing. Well, it's not we have to, because we don't criminalize it as human beings. We understand it. It is the structures that we've built that criminalize it, and we have to change them. But it takes a lot of political will and a lot of speaking out. So that is the reason why I did it. The outcome of it, well, it is not linear. It is not like the day after something changed, but I was very glad that on the tangent, that always these tangents lead to the center. I was very glad that the day after, many people in Los Angeles, where the Oscars take place, many migrants there, and many people that are migrants as well, but that are from Los Angeles, but that live in Los Angeles. Everyone came up and said, "Man, yes, we have to even speak more about it, because we don't have to make this, like a tired horse in a sense. This is just the beginning."
Yeah, and many people criticize actors or people in the spotlight because they feel like you shouldn't have an opinion, and it's lovely to see that you've got a platform and you're using it, and you're speaking as Gael da Silva now. You're not speaking as some famous actor, and like Meryl Streep and anybody else up on the stage. And do you think that it's fair enough for people in the spotlight to have that platform to speak their mind? And don't you think that's a good thing?
Absolutely. Because it's part of the reason why there is that spotlight. It is it is. I mean, actors on a more etymological level. I mean, it can be anyone. It is not necessarily someone that dedicates to acting. You know, actors in our society, people that are there, that have a microphone nowadays, you know, that are able to speak their words, that should be able to. I mean, that's the reason why they become actors of society in a sense, because they are able to express themselves, and they have to, and we have to. You know, we expect something. Some people that don't expect that, then that's that there is a kind of how do you say, basically it is whoever is more open demands that from the actors of society. Whoever is a little bit more closed doesn't want actors of society to say anything that can cause or change or move or tickle some things. Obviously, we can criticize what they say, because that's part of saying something as well. You know, like it can be criticized. But I think the notion of being able to speak, it is an essential part of being in the spotlight.
Absolutely. Gael, look, thank you so much for your time. We're looking forward to seeing more adventures from Rodrigo, and hopefully we might see you at the Emmys in a couple of months.
Cool. That'll be great. And thank you so much. And